Where's the strangest place you've ever been? You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Welcome back to the show. That's Matt behind the camera. I'm Ben. We're in a strange place here, which makes it stuff they don't want you to know. Matt, before we get started, what's the strangest place you've ever been?
An abandoned mental institution in Atlanta.
Yeah, the abandoned mental institution, just a bit north of the city. If you're a fan of urban exploration like Matt or Josh Clark or myself, then you will really enjoy Atlanta because it is lousy with mysteriously abandoned buildings. This week, our series focuses on strange places throughout the world. Now, we opened with one of our classic episodes on the Bermuda Triangle, and later this week we're going to get to a very new, supposedly new, phenomenon that's popping up in Russia. And in our research on our Strange Places series, what we found very quickly was that Atlanta is no exception to the rule. It turns out that wherever you live, you're going to be within a few days' journey of a very strange place. So what we're looking at today are three types of strange places that we may explore in future episodes if they interest you. First type of strange place, a haunted forest. Yeah, now I know this sounds like some sort of BS fairy tale, but the truth of the matter is that millions of people around the world don't just believe in haunted forests, they believe they live near one. There's one in Romania, near the second largest city in Romania, called Cluj-Napoca. This forest, Huabașu, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, is home to so many strange stories. We're not just talking paranormal stuff, the usual ghosts that you would hear of in a haunted forest. We're also talking about UFO sightings, non-human paranormal entities, mysterious disappearances, even catacombs that allegedly snake out under the forest as part of an occult network. Now, it should be said at this point that all of the stories about this forest are what Matt and I would typify as legends. These are not stories that come out of some hard-hitting journalist finding tunnels under the forest. However, we do know that there was one scientist who's very interested in this, a biologist named Alexandru Sift. Dr. Sift allegedly believed that there were strange nuances to the behavior of light and magnetism within this forest, and as the story goes, he spent a lot of time investigating this. However, after his death in the 90s, his notes and most of the photographs that he took of what he believed might be some sort of UFO were reputedly lost. There are still a few around in one book. These are widely, as far as we could find, dismissed by mainstream scientists. But how interesting. And that's not the only interesting thing about this forest, because way back in history, it wasn't part of Romania as we know it today. In fact, it was part of a place that you might recognize as Transylvania. And this is only one haunted forest. We're not even getting to, the suicide forest in Japan, or the various large swaths of forests in North America where people just vanish, or the long stretches of road in rural Canada where women have been abducted and disappeared with no evidence found, and dozens of cold cases. Number two, man-made strange places. Now, we've all probably heard about the Winchester Mansion. The lady who marries the inventor of the Winchester repeating rifle feels very guilty when a medium tells her that all of the ghosts who died by her husband's invention are angry at her. And so to appease these spirits, she builds a mansion in California and continues building it until her death. And this thing looks a little bit MC Escher-y. We've got stairs that lead to nowhere, rooms that don't make sense or even connect to other rooms in a realistic way, doors that just open up to the second floor places, because, that's what ghosts like, according to the late Mrs. Winchester. Now, this is not to make light of it if you believe in this, and of course, she certainly did. But there's another, and I would say a stranger man-made place, and that is H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle, which you may recall from the fantastic book Devil in the White City. We have not covered the Murder Castle in detail, but the quick and dirty version is a fellow named Herman Mudgett, who changes his name to H.H. Holmes, builds a hotel with 60 rooms in Chicago. Right around the time the World's Fair is occurring, he is actively killing and torturing people, and this was no ordinary hotel. No, it was built with secret passageways, methods for knocking people out with gas, torture rooms, a surgical chamber, for fun, not for save your life surgery, for H.H. Holmes' version of surgery, and chutes for the bodies when he was done, along with prison rooms where he would just hold people. Eventually, H.H. Holmes was caught, and that's when the investigators found that he thought he was possessed by the devil. He had no real guilt over his crimes and would have not only continued, but would have expanded his unholy operation had he not been caught. The house eventually burned to the ground, and that's why we're listing both of them. And of course, those are not the only strange man-made places. We'd love to hear your suggestions, and we've saved I don't want to call it the best, so we've saved the third for last. Just kidding. That's so dumb. So in 1972, there's this employee at this nuclear processing plant in France, and the employee notices a small discrepancy in the uranium that's mined from this otherwise ordinary ore. They find that the uranium-235 in this ore, which would normally be about 0.720%, instead is 0.717%, which means that some sort of reaction already took place, and this is impossible, right? They think, this small discrepancy. They follow up on this, and they go to the uranium mines of Gabon, where at the time France was acquiring a lot of the uranium it used to build its nuclear industry. Here's what they find. In those uranium mines, there was a nuclear reactor. Once upon a time, a very old nuclear reactor. A nuclear reactor that, as far as we know, predates mankind entirely. That's right, sometime during the pre-Cambrian period, there was a series of nuclear reactors in this area, not just one, but as many as 14, that produced nuclear fission. And it seems that they just happened naturally, as far as we can guess. Now, just to clarify, and this is pretty important, we're calling this a nuclear reactor, and you'll read about it being called a nuclear reactor, but really it's more fair to call it a nuclear reaction. This is not a building with a giant concrete dome or anything like that. This is a process that appeared to occur on its own with the ore in the ground. How could a nuclear reactor just happen? That's a great question, but that's not the crazy part. The crazier parts are, one, why did this only happen in Gabon, and why did this only happen at this time? Two, and perhaps most importantly here, why and how did these things regulate? Why did they not just reach critical mass and then explode, raining nuclear disaster across the ancient world? And third, what does this say exactly about the ancient past? There's an excellent article from 2009 written by a guy named Alex Meshik in Scientific American, where he breaks down some of the actual details about how this thing could occur, and of course the questions that this gives scientists in the modern age. By far, the strangest, most bizarre question is toward the bottom of this article. They bury the lead a little bit, and the question is, what does this say about what we've always assumed would be physical constants of the world? As Meshik writes, in the world of physics, there is this concept of alpha, and it looks like an underscore, and that is a principle governing certain things like the speed of light, stuff that we've just thought was always the same. But as Meshik writes, a year earlier in 2008, some very smart people at Los Alamos National Laboratory started looking at Oklo mine, one of the uranium mines where these ancient reactors were discovered, and saying, what if this reactor occurring is proof that the constants of the universe are not as constant as we have assumed them to be? And that is mind-blowing. And if that is true, then forget the Bermuda Triangle, because these ancient nuclear reactors have officially become the strangest place in our book. Of course, scientists still have so many questions to answer about this, so hopefully we'll learn more as the years progress and people continue to study these ancient, non-man-made nuclear reactors. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this quick update on some of the strange places that we'll be getting into a little more detail with on our audio podcast. In the meantime, let us know what other strange places we should cover and why. You can check us out in the comments. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. And if you have an idea for a topic that we should cover in the future or a response to something we've already covered, please send us an email. We are conspiracy@howstuffworks.com.